days ago, GameSpot published a video written and performed by analyst Danny O'Dwyer entitled Destiny Reviews and Aging Gamers, discussing what was described as age bias among gamers by way of juxtaposing the mediocre critical reception of Destiny against the earth-shattering commercial success of the very same title. In the aftermath, a slew of YouTube commentators concurrently tripped over their own dicks, agreeing with his fairly mundane opinionate, and without exposing it, in my opinion, to the requisite scrutiny they were all too eager, ironically, to apply to fucking Destiny to begin with. I felt like his argument was about as authentic as a piece of complete and utter bullshit can possibly be. And like most bullshit, there was a grain of truth embedded at its core for ease of digestion. His stance is fairly straightforward, and he's neither the first nor the most articulate spokesman of it either. Gamers like myself, raised in the roaring 90s, witnessed massive qualitative leaps between console generations. In all of 5 years, we went from 2D to 3D, Zelda, Metal Gear Solid, and of course Mario, while a veritable deluge of piping fresh IPs like Half-Life, Deus Ex, System Shock, and Thief threw off the bounds of what the medium was conceivably capable of. And we witnessed this same engine of innovation shattering genre boundaries as recently as 2007. As older gamers, we have been conditioned to believe that we are entitled to a ceaseless procession of innovation. We anticipate the complete reinvention of the industry with each successive iteration, he says. And in all of these things, he's absolutely correct. It's the suppositions he makes after this where you remember that he works for GameSpot. For the first time in gaming history, he says, the industry has come face to face with the sobering realities of the law of diminishing returns, quite literally suggesting the modern industry is outright incapable of pushing forward, that the technology itself, technology which I would hasten to add that his own website depicted as the second coming after the PS4 reveal event in early 2013, has in fact fallen prey at last to the technical exigencies that visual fidelity and interactivity demand, and can only in fact be pushed so far, that younger gamers are more locked into this fact because they are either freshly initiated into the art form and lack context, or have been conditioned to expect less by the cavalcade of cliché that has comprised the last 6 years of game design. This, he claims, explains the disparity between how tepidly Destiny was received and the mountain of filthy cash Bobby Kotick is sobbing himself to sleep into each night as he perches atop because this game is selling like a fucking AIDS cure. Why Danny O'Dwyer believes we should in fact be surprised by a generic first-person shooter published by Activision and developed by Bungie selling like Thriller in 2014, a year where even the least distinctive annual iterations of Call of Duty and Battlefield routinely print fucking money, is a mystery he strategically never deigns to address. But let's put this law of diminishing returns horseshit definitively the fuck to bed, shall we? The industry apologencia have been flapping their 5 chins about the possibility of diminishing visual returns since the launch of the Sega fucking Dreamcast, people. And that is a fact. We had a long way to go then, and you only need to take one fleeting glance at even the shittiest CGI in a Hollywood film to confirm that the industry still has a long way to go now. The returns of the PS4 and Xbox One have diminished by design. Because after Sony dropped a shitload of money making the exotic lumbering sea beast that was the PS3, with all the needless bells, whistles, and nipple clamps their fanbase were clamoring for, they spent too much and made too little. Even the Xbox 360, which was comparatively less expensive and more profitable, was sold at a loss unit for unit. Sony and Microsoft had an unspoken gentleman's agreement that simply put they were not about to spend a shitload of money making these new next-gen consoles. And the PS4 as a result is the first Sony console to turn an actual profit, albeit a very modest one, on each actual hardware unit of PS4s sold. These systems are out of date because they were engineered not to be powerful, but to be cheap. Forbes published an article just last week discussing just how intentionally out of date the PS4 and Xbox One actually are. See, in case you haven't walked into an electronics retailer in the past several months, 4K televisions are already dipping down to below $500 in price, meaning by the end of 2016, it's entirely likely 4K will be the new standard. And yet 2 consoles released not 3 years previously will be technically incapable of rendering a video game at 4K resolution. In fact, while Microsoft are flat out fucking lying and claiming the Xbox One can render at 4K, Sony, in a rare spasm of honesty, have confided to at least one journalist that the PS4 may not in fact be technically capable of even upscaling a game to 4K resolution. How's that for long-term console investment? Now, taken cosmetically, this would appear to bolster Danny O'Dwyer's contention about diminishing returns. After all, who cares if the consoles were organically or artificially hobbled? The point is, Kathy Bates took a sledgehammer to their fucking ankles. The Xbox One's a cripple. Fucking deal with it. Well, here's the thing, folks. There is perhaps no more inexpensive component to upgrade on a console or on a PC than RAM. Prior to the launch of the PS4 and Xbox One, I argued, and on an article on my website even correctly predicted, that in an effort to cut down on cost and amplify the possibility of large, detailed next-gen game levels, Sony and Microsoft would focus not on graphics, but on memory. And with 12 gigabytes apiece, I tend to believe I was vindicated in that assumption. It's the largest leap in memory in home console history, and I don't believe that was an accident. RAM is cheap, and RAM means designers can craft larger levels with more objects, with heavier scripting and more unique properties, while retaining that next-gen graphical fidelity without reading off the disc. You know, like the exact kind of levels we haven't fucking seen on PS4 and Xbox One, Destiny very much included. These are the first consoles in history where it was technically possible, without loading zones or other game design sleight of hand, to craft levels the size, detail, and scope of those found in System Shock 2 or Thief the Dark Project, while retaining the visual detail of the next gen. A fact that for me makes Eidos Montreal's abject abortion by the name of Thief 4 all the more disappointing. Console developers in 2014 are now uniquely capable of crafting titanic, immersive levels without skimping on visual detail, and what we get instead is Halo with hoods. Steampunk Gears of War. I can't believe it's not Forza. That isn't the law of diminishing returns, Danny O'Dwyer. That's purposeful neutering of new IPs to preserve their commercial viability. That's an industry cowering and crippling fear of the future. That's an industry playing it safe and training its consumer base to be grateful for it. What I find so personally objectionable about Danny O'Dwyer of GameSpot's facile pseudo-argument is that it excuses an entire industry for behavior that even people within said industry believe is entirely inexcusable. If it were, major names from Hideo Kojima to Warren Spector wouldn't be calling the entire industry out for failing to innovate with superior technology at their disposal. These are people familiar with said technology and making relevant video games with it. Diminishing visual returns, gamers have long since come to expect, especially older gamers like myself. But Destiny isn't shit because it's not visually impressive, folks. It's shit because it comes out 13 years after Halo Combat Evolved, and its shooting is about half as fucking functional. Festering shit selling like hotcakes is something old gamers like myself have come to accept. The new TMNT film was about the most ripe turd I've ever had the misfortune to behold, and it sold a fuckload of movie tickets. The public is an ass. Look at the people they elect and re-elect for confirmation. If holding a video game to a standard it sets for itself means I'm old, then get off my fucking porch. Razor, out.